Good afternoon, everyone. Very warm welcome. Thanks very much for joining. This is our first webinar of the year. I'm Will Sibley. I'm from the account management team at LandApp, and I'll be hosting the session. I'm here with my colleague Rosie, who's also in the account management team at LandApp, who will be supporting technically, as well as helping to answer your questions throughout the session. Today's focus is LandApp 101, master the basics and build your foundations. So we thought it'd be a good way to start the year with a really kind of introductory session, going through the core components in LandApp, if you like importing boundaries, data layers, and prints. It's great to see so many names on the list as well. Some are familiar to me, and I know some are brand new. So this is really aimed at anyone using LandApp, whether you've been using us for a long time and looking for a refresher, or if you're brand new, we'll cover everything that you need to get started. So I hope you found today or find today useful. Some housekeeping before we start. So as always, your camera and microphones will be turned off. It's only myself and Rosie who'll be able to unmute themselves, but that doesn't mean to say we don't want to hear from you. So we have the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. It should be somewhere in the middle of those icons, which means you can ask questions, and we're really keen to hear your feedback. And we've saved some time at the end to answer the questions that you submit. We are recording the session, and the recording will be chunked up and then uploaded to our YouTube channel in 3 to 5 working days, depending on how busy our marketing team is. And then there is also, once you leave the webinar, quite a quick survey. I think it's about 3 or 4 questions. And we really appreciate you answering those after you leave. This is really helpful for us in terms of how we deliver these webinars. There'll be different themes that you can suggest that we might cover in the future. So that's really helpful for us and more broadly around how the product is working for you. So please do fill out that survey once we're done. Looking at the agenda, so today I'll spend just 5 minutes or so introducing you to what LandApp is and who we are, because I'm aware there's quite new faces in the audience today. Then we'll go through a demo for about 30 to 40 minutes, really diving into the kind of basic functionality. We'll work through a workflow around SFI. We had big news about sustainable farming incentive recently, so I'll be focusing on that a bit. That will also include things like really getting set up, navigating the interface, and those core functions that I mentioned a moment ago. And then we'll go through a Q&A. So we've saved a good 15 to 20 minutes at the end just to go over all your questions. Right, so starting with what LandApp is. So we're a mapping platform that's been around since 2016. We were initially part of the Geovation program through Ordnance Survey, but we're now our own independent company, trusted by a range of different professionals across the country. We're a team here in the UK of 16, and then with 9 software developers over in Poland who are really working in the background, making LandApp happen technically. And we're really trying to put the right data in the hands of the relevant people across the land management sector, really just to support those decisions on the ground with respect to sustainable land use and, of course, profitable businesses. So we want to connect the right people with the right tools, advice, incentives to ultimately help you, landowners, or those working with landowners, to really make the best decisions or data-backed decisions on the paths that you want to take. So of course, those decisions can be very broad and versatile, and that I think is reflected in the various different sectors that are using LandApp. But the data in LandApp and how you can use the tool is really there to help you come to those decisions, and with data to back it up. So predominantly, we have food and farming, mostly farmers using LandApp, but there are a number of different estates, land agents, renewable companies using LandApp too. So our role is really there to help drive the digital transition and then help inform you all around the work that's been done on the ground. So functionally, we're tiered in three different tiers. There's a free version of LandApp, which I'll be covering mostly today, but there's also two paid tiers in the standard and professional subscription. The functionality gets much more advanced in those tiers, and we can touch on a couple of them today, but I'll be mostly working in around the free functionality, and that's where all the core getting set up type functions are. Um, and then lastly, I've laid out kind of four different values that we're really trying to um, port or generate for you as users in LandApp. That's connecting and collaborating, saving time, which is a big one. Consistent data, so we bring in a lot of data into LandApp. We don't actually make a lot of data ourselves. It's usually open source data from the government to really bring everything in that you need into one place. And then, of course, being able to demonstrate. So I'll cover certain outputs that can be um, taken from LandApp, and that goes for things like reports and prints too. So hopefully those values are conveyed throughout the demo. And then lastly, we're really privileged to be partnering with a number of well-known organisations, land agencies, wildlife trusts across the sector. And we're really looking forward to partnering with more. And if you do have opportunities or want to work with us, please do say so in the Q&A. We wouldn't be in the position we are right now without our customers. I'm very grateful for all the feedback over the years that everyone has shared. That's really given us a good basis on how to develop. And yeah, the plans that we have for the future are still being based on your feedback. So the more you can share with us, the more we could continue down that route. And then another little one on data providers. Again, we don't really create much data ourselves. We rely on third parties and pride ourselves in integration with those third parties. So again, if you're from any of those organisations here today, thank you. And then in the demo, I'll explain a bit more about these data layers. And that can cover everything from designations, habitats to market incentives. So without further ado, I will dive in to the demo. So I'm going to start by looking at our website. And if you're brand new to this, I'll just give you a quick tour. There's a whole different range up here on the drop-down tabs. I really encourage you to look at the functions page. So this lists pretty much every function within LandApp. You can even click on the standard and professional tiers too to have a good look through. Um, and that gives you a bit more information about what those functions are and of course the values you can get from them. So I'd really encourage you to have a look through this functions page and then moving on to our pricing page too. This just again gives the highlights in terms of functionality within those tiers as well as the pricing as well. Then looking at other features here, which I won't go to just now, but this is also a useful tab too. Depending on who you are, you might want to drop in to any of these different groups that you might sit within. So for example, estates, there's a whole web page here that you can work through to really read through and understand how LandApp can bring value to your organization. Which again, I'd encourage you if you're brand new to all of this, have a good look through all these different pieces of information. And then lastly, up here, we've got the community tab. We do regularly publish case studies as well as blogs. Product updates is a big fan favorite for anyone who's been using us for a long time. You can just get a summary of the different updates that have been coming into LandApp, and looking at this one here for January 26. We've got new regional map filters, for example, which I will show once I get into LandApp, and then new data layers, etc. There's a whole summary there that you can just keep in touch with through this page. So now heading over to here, again, if you're brand new, you can sign up to Land App. It's a really quick step from this page. You just fill in a few different details, like your name and surname, email address and password, etc. That will then send you a verification email, which you need to verify, and then you'll be all set to get in. I myself have already created a free account, which I'll be working through in this demo. It's Will plus 3, 2. I'll just drop in. Whenever I log into Land App, it will take me to this is called the main Maps dashboard page. And this button at the top here, clicking on that button, which is on every page within Land App, will take me back to here. And you can kind of treat this as your main data catalog, if you like. It will show all the different maps that you've created within your account. If I want to, I can click that button and see it as a list if I wanted to there, but we'll see it as a gallery. These tabs themselves, we'll touch on these again a bit further in the demo, but there's an ability to share maps with external users within Land App. So you can see here under this shared tab that my other account has shared this map with me, and then also an archive folder too. And as an example, we can quickly just archive this one like so, and that will be put into the archive folder. This doesn't mean you're deleting maps, although you can do that in certain tiers. But we have this archive section if you just want to put older maps in there but keep them for any other reason. You can just pop them in the archived here. Before I create a new map, you'll notice in the free account as well, I've got a maximum of 4 maps within this account, and there's a maximum of 25 plans within each of those maps. If I have 4 in this page here and I need another one, if I just pop them in the archived where there is also a limit or a maximum of 4 maps, I can just do that to free up a map space here if I needed to. And then of course in the paid subscriptions there's unlimited maps, so do bear that in mind if you need to create lots of them. There are other buttons up here which I can cover a bit later, but I think we can dive straight in to creating a new map with that button there, and then highlighting this new sub-region feature too. So I can select which region I'm working in, and I'll choose England for this, but you could do Scotland. Ticking all 3, it will just say Great Britain, and we'll give it a name, call it webinar demo. So what that regionality would do is basically filter the different data sets or data layers, the different template types suited to the region that I choose. And from here, I can save as a default. So I'll just go Great Britain there. And this is what opening a brand new map would look like. So slap bang in the middle of England as a default. And I think from here, I'm just going to break it down into sections of how to navigate this page, which to some of you will be brand new of what you're seeing. Starting with base maps, and I can access those from this top right button here and a whole menu. So what these base maps are effectively the different backgrounds that you want to use whilst you're mapping, and the value of those is you get the detail within those maps and can see where spatially everything is located. You can also pick up that detail, which I'll show in a minute. Starting with OpenStreetMap, which is kind of a free open source and crowd-funded base map, which you can see here. Moving down, skipping to the satellite imagery options with Stadia maps, and you can also have Stadia maps with labels. I'll just show you that by zooming in, and I'm using my trackpad to zoom right in. If you're using a mouse, it would be the scroll button. And you can see as I zoom in, that base map is rendering into further detail like so. And then if we click on the labels too, we can view those as well, which might be useful to some. And from this, again, you can see that detail. So this block of woodland here, I can see what that's built like through this map. And then right at the bottom here, there's a blank version, which is just a blank screen. And then, of course, Ordnance Survey. So there are three different options with Ordnance Survey in Land App, with Ordnance Survey, which you see here, Ordnance Survey Lite, which is just a grayscale version of Ordnance Survey. I quite like this version because you get a good color contrast to what you input. And then Ordnance Survey Leisure. So if you're a rambler like me who is familiar with those paper maps that Ordnance Survey sell, you'll be familiar with this kind of look too. So as with all Ordnance Survey data, it's licensed data. So there's a cost associated with different detail and levels, I guess, or products, should I say, from Ordnance Survey. These three base maps, you'll notice, unlike the others that have a free icon next to them, a freemium, and it's a blend of free and premium, and I'll explain that now. With what you can see at this level, and I'm quite zoomed out, you can see right at the bottom there, it tells me what zoom level I'm on. I'm on 8 at the minute, which is free. Zooming in with my trackpad, you'll see as I move to zoom level 10, that's premium. And you'll also notice that the data set slightly changes as I move in. And that's actually at the minute being Ordnance Survey open data. So this is free to use. As I zoom in, that data set changes to Ordnance Survey Master Map, which is really their kind of flagship product with all the detail in terms of their survey data. It's very accurate and up to date now of all the features. So the roads, the buildings, the little labels that you can take from this map. Really valuable in terms of if you want that accuracy and level of detail that Ordnance Survey can provide. In terms of the costs, so this is being costed, or your account is being charged through a credit system with Ordnance Survey. So these tiles, or these images even, that you see are built up of tiles. So they're squares on the map, and each tile will have a cost associated with them and a number of credits associated with them. The more I zoom in and out, the more credits or tiles that are being loaded, and therefore credits are being used. We do have a little marker at the bottom here of your credit usage. And as I zoom in and out, you can see that changes. In terms of the amount of credits, it really varies depending where you are. So different tiles in different areas will have a different cost associated with them. For example, in a more rural area where there's less features on the map, it would probably be cheaper in comparison to a really urban area where there's a lot of detail. There'll be more expensive tiles being used. Every time someone signs up, we'll give them 30,000 credits for free. And you can keep track of that right at the bottom there. Or alternatively, you can head to this Head and Shoulders at the top and see the credit usage there. You can, as one option, if you do run out and do need to use this level on Ordnance Survey, you can just top up like so. And we've given a little bit of an indication in terms of the cost per credits. So for example, £4.50 for another 30,000, or right up to 50,000 for 600,000 credits, like so. So again, I'll in a bit later look more into those details that you can see on the Ordnance Survey map. But for most of this demo, we'll just stick with OpenStreetMap, which, as you can see, like the others, is giving good detail in terms of the buildings and roads and names of locations. So that's base maps. Moving again on this right-hand corner over to the data layers, and these are those different geospatial data sets that I mentioned that we bring into LandApp. We do that so you've got all the data that you need for whatever task you're getting up to in one place. So clicking on that drop-down menu here, you've got a whole list of categories. What this list is called is actually an accordion. So that means every time that I click on one of these categories here, it opens up to a list of different data layers. And just to turn any of those on, I'll go public rights of way as a first example. You just need to click that like so. And then those data layers will appear. We've done a bit of help with color coding or styling these different data layers, and I can actually click on them. So these are all vector files, and what I mean by that is their features. So for example, in opposite of that, on the base maps, that's called raster files. So they're pretty much images that I can't click on and see any information on. But as vector files, I can click on it and that will have certain attributes or data points associated with them. So this one, for example, I've got a byway open to all traffic somewhere in Leicestershire. It give me more data in terms of the visibility, although I don't quite know what these data points are, the public rights of way. And it will also tell me the source. So at the bottom of this attribute table, when I click on any of these data layers, it goes for things like flood zones, like so. Environment Agency and Welsh Government there. I can click on SSSIs, see if we've got any here. Just giving it a second for that to render. Yeah, we've got a couple up here. Let's see, that is the Rocheston Bog SSSI. Some will give you a direct link to the source. And then again, the main data source is right at the bottom. They're really useful in terms of, like the base maps, viewing the detail. But once, say, your area of interest is here, you'll know what's surrounding that area. It will give you characteristics, or particularly if you're doing specific things like agri-environment scheme planning or planning projects, you can view those different features and designations through these data layers. Switching those on and off, I could just click on each of them, or you see that little number that's popped up there. So I've got 3 on at the minute. I can just click hide all, and that will turn all of those off. We do have what we call a crawler in our back end development environment. So what that does is every week it will check when these data layers were last updated. And then if it can automatically update them, it will. Or if it's a case of a manual update, that will flag it to our data engineers that will then go to update that data layer. So rest assured, when they are updated, we'll be right on the case if they are, and we'll be bringing that latest update into LandApp. There's a whole range. There's over 120, I think now, most of which are free. So I do encourage you, get into your account and do have a good look at these and search them. If you don't want to trundle all the way through each one, just pop it in that search bar at the top and you'll be able to find it. And then again, if you can't see any, do please let us know. We'll look into bringing those into LandApp. So that's base maps and data layers covered, looking really again at the detail that you want to find and key information about the area. We can then move on to this left side and start importing boundaries, and that's really when things start getting interesting. So there are other buttons at the top here, but again, I'll cover those a bit later. This button on the top left, new, is almost always the place you want to go to when you're starting or highlighting a boundary. And you'll get 4 options here. Use template, import data, download data, and draw freehand. If I wanted to, with that draw freehand button, I can just start drawing out different boundaries. But these first 2 options are really going to be your best friends, and they'll actually take you to the same place. So I'll start with import data. Now, a great benefit of LandApp is our integrations that I touched on at the start. And we have integrations with both HM Land Registry for England and Wales. If I'm in Scotland, I could use the Registers of Scotland um, data set, and then also in England, the rural payments agencies. And what those integrations enable is me to, for this case with land registry, view the land registry's titles across my whole map. And that will also allow me to select any of them by just clicking on them. And you can see once selected, that color changes from red into this kind of orangey yellow color. As a default, this select all parcels within the title button is on. And what that will do is where you've got titles that have multiple titles dotted about. Let's see if I can find one. That's one there. So it's selected those two parcels. And if I turn that off, it will just select the one. Like so. Let's go with this one here. And then I can just click next. Landat will then ask me to select a template. Now, what these are different, you can call them pre-populated designs, in which we've done a job or helped with bringing in different attributes under these different frameworks in order for you to complete your task much quicker. And there's a whole range here, from the sustainable farming incentive, 24 there, to basic payment scheme and countryside stewardship if you're working in a agri-environment or farming context. And then also more official tasks such as FR1 form, the land registry, or an RLE1 with the RPA. And then all sorts of things in terms of woodland creation. Again, that's a grant scheme related templates, things like field risk, peatland condition assessments, or if you're more in the agency and property side of things, we've got things like sales plan, valuation plans, ownership boundaries, for example. So there's a whole range there. Again, if I change my sub-region, it should slightly change that list. So if I click off that, click on it again, go to use template, you'll see it's slightly different now. So we've got things like agri-environment climate scheming, which is the scheme in Scotland, or the whole farm plan biodiversity audit too. That's appeared for me as I've selected that region. Let's just head back to England there. And for this quick initial demo through a land registry import, I'm going to go with blank. It's quite a good broad one to work through. Let's pick another one. I think it was. Let's go this one over here. And we'll give it a name. So as a good practice, it's good to name your plans consistently. I quite like putting the template type at the start and then just giving it a comma. Let's go title 1, if I can spell. There we go. And straight away, that's really quickly imported my boundary for me. You'll notice on the side here, that's appeared on my plan list, which is important, and we'll go to in a moment once there are a few more in there. But looking at this polygon that's appeared, I can now obviously click on that, and this pop-up on the right-hand side will appear. And this will really hold all that key data that you want to associate with this feature or features in your plan. So you've got really simple things like area, and that's calculated kind of on the cuff, depending on what you click on, as well as the perimeter. Other unpopulated things like name, we could go add that here, title 1, clicking on it. We could give it a description, so it could be the name of the person that owns it. And then also down here, you've got key things like title number that's been imported over as we've used the land registry imports, as well as the Inspire ID. That's the kind of log that it is in that mapping portal. and then also when that was generated. If I wanted to turn any of these on, this little eye icon right next to that label will switch that on and off on my map. So we can turn on the name that I've just given it and the title number, if we want to, the area as well. That's quite handy in terms of you do want that visual label on, you can just do that through that little eye, like so. We'll just keep that title number on. And then, of course, these two buttons at the top here, we've got assign use. So this will give me then a list of what we call attributes to assign to the different features on my map. Again, as an accordion structure, if I just click on any of those, it would give me, in this blank template, quite a broad scope. So it could be parking, for example. You can go really simple things like an ownership boundary, and clicking on that, as for any of those other attributes, it will pre-populate that feature with a certain style. So this one we can see that it's red. That is automatically updated at the top here. But if we wanted to, we could edit that like so. So you've got an opacity bar here, which I'm just moving up and down, and keep this quite low. And then we can change the color if we want to. You can also give it a pattern, but I might show that to you once we've imported from the RPA. They're really useful in terms of not only visualizing something and keeping each different feature that you create separate from each other, depending on what attribute you've given it, but we've helped along the way with that automatic function there. So that's that attribute panel done, and we can touch on that a bit further in a second. Looking at this feature that we've got on, and you'll notice when I click off that, I've got this set of functions at the top here. Clicking on that will give me these 5 additional tools that I can use to edit this particular polygon here. And as we've got a title, we haven't got the details in terms of the breakdown of the fields or maybe even the buildings that are within it. So we can use those tools to break that down if we wanted to. This is a good moment to perhaps change to the aerial view so I can see what the detail is, and it might take a second to just render. And first off, we could use this split function, which is the pair of scissors at the top, to just divide this map or this area into different features like so. So with that split function, what I'm doing is clicking first on the outside of the polygon and then just clicking again to change direction like so. I'll move that at the top there, and that's just split that for me quite nicely. Secondly, next to it is the merge button. So if I want 2 polygons merged, so it's the opposite almost of splits, what I can do is click on one of those polygons, click merge, and that will bring them both together like so. If I didn't want to do that, I could click the undo if I wanted to. And then thirdly, this buffer function, which I will show you actually. It may be an import with the SFI function or SFI template. But there you can just get from that, so I can break down that whole map if I wanted to. I look into the detail. In terms of buildings, the Ordnance Survey is a really good way to almost trace these different features on the map, and I'll show you how to do that now. This drop down. But not only can you import those boundaries and edit them with those different tools, but you can also draw things too. So things like lines, areas, shapes. With this set of buildings here, I'm going to choose area, and this kind of hidden button right at the bottom here, only when you're on Ordnance Survey base maps, if you click on, it will actually trace the features within it. You can see my mouse is snapping to line a bit there. So I'll just pick up these different features like so and start to get that detail in my map if I need to. I'll just click finish, give those an attribute, and see that detail there. So you can get a sense from all of that that once importing your boundary, you can really start to enrich the detail within that map. I'll just jump over now to the RPA function, which I know a lot of you will want to see, just to show you the difference between the two. So this time, after clicking import data, I'll click import from the Rural Payments Agency. I do need an SBI number for that, like so. I'm going to use Tim, who's our founder's SBI number, a farmer down in Surrey, and then a selection of 3 different data sets from the RPA. We'll almost always want to click land covers. We've also got land parcels as well as hedges too. And then just clicking next. Again, will ask me for a template. For this one, I'm going to pick the basic payment scheme template. It's called BPS. Normally, so. And in an instant, you can see that's taking me right over to Surrey, which is where Tim's farm is. And it's given me those 3 different plans in this quite nice pre-populated colouring as the benefit of using the BPS template with this function, because our template and the RPA data talks to each other in terms of matching what those different details are within the map. So for this, for example, it's pre-populated. That attribute is permanent grassland. This map 2 or field 2. This one, it hasn't made it. So what we can do, we know, let's just give it Lucerne, for example. There's a bit of forage going on there, and pre-populate that. I can pop on the code if I want to, just to see what they are. So another nice example of really streamlining that. And then we've also got the hedges too. So there's different abilities we can do from this. Say if I wanted to start a sustainable farming incentive plan, I could hit that 3 dots next to my plan name and click duplicate, choose that relevant template type, give it a name, create plan. It's given me that additional plan layer. On these different layers that are coming up on the left, you'll notice as I keep making different boundaries or layers, this list will get longer. As mentioned at the start, there's a maximum of 25 plans per map in free. As this list gets quite long, it's quite nice, I think, to use this folder function to create a folder. So you could call this as Norney Farm folder. And then I can start moving that about by just dragging that and then popping it into my folder if I want to, just to keep things nice and tidy, like so. There we go. And I can just click that to drop down. And from there, we can start assigning for this SFI scheme anything from low input, grassland, wherever that's gone. Again, that pre-population. So I might want to just stick with this one field for my SFI plan. Again, I can look at the value by turning on the labels. I can also, again, from this 3 dots on the side, click a table view and see that all in a table. This is exportable in the paid subscriptions, but not just right yet in the free. And then I can also, again, use this reports function right at the top there to select a plan. Let's go with that BPS land covers and see a slightly different table in terms of an aggregated view and a breakdown. So you've got all those codes that the RPA populated for us as features. You've got the count, so that's the number of features within the map, and a total area too, and a percentage. So with both those tables that I showed from that reports button at the top there, and then also the table view. I've got two quite key outputs from these maps that I can use to view that data slightly differently and take that away into whatever other platforms or piece of work that I'm working on. You'll notice there with that zoom to extent button, I can zoom back to where I need to be. Instead of having to zoom right out and then head back in, I can just click that zoom to extent button there to zoom back. And then I think lastly, before I get on to perhaps the Q&A or a print if we have time, really another key way or key function to enrich this plan or data that I've inputted here is around this button at the bottom of photos. So I can add photos through my computer by just clicking on that. We've got this folder here of photos that I've got saved. Just click open, finish, and then turning on that photos toggle there, they've appeared on my map. So in cases where you might have photos for evidencing on different schemes, or you just want a good visual of what these fields look like, you can import them into LandApp like so. You do need to have location data on your phone when you do take those photos, or it could be your camera, in order for them to place on the map. If they don't, then they won't be imported. You can see there, we can view, that's Tim's barn. I can download that too if I want to. Okay, I see there are lots of questions coming through. I think I'll just spend 2 minutes going over a print and then we can perhaps answer a few questions. This button at the top here, print my map, will enable me to print this. I can create my first frame. Oh, we see that a pop-up from Similar has turned up. But clicking on that frame, as it's the first one, I'll get to decide what this looks like, and you can redo that again if you need to, or you can save this frame that I can create, or I create now. Choosing the paper size, so you've got a whole list there. I'll choose A4 portrait for this. I can also choose the scale. So this option here prints everything I can see at auto scale. That means I can use those 4 boxes on the edges to change the scale. Or if I do need to print at a fixed scale, I can choose that option and go right down to 500 like so, and move that around if I need to. For this one, I'll print the whole farm, I think, using the auto scale. Just move that around. I can choose the base map. So this one here is Ordnance Survey, with OpenStreetMap, which is free. Others with the satellite imagery, with the Stadia maps, I can choose. There is a small cost with this. You can see this one is £3. It gives me flags that I've got a 20% discount in a paid subscription on these. And then also with the Ordnance Survey maps, you can choose those. And again, there's a license cost associated with this frame that you purchase. Bear in mind, once it's purchased, you can use that multiple times within the 12-month license period. And it will also calculate a cost for me. And again, like the credits, this is based on the location and the amount of detail that you're printing on. So for example, here, this is £23.55, just to show the difference in terms of the areas. So I'm in a quite rural area at the minute. If I head over to Godalming, oh, the price hasn't gone up too much. Maybe I work that down a bit. Yeah, you see, going into a lot more detail at a higher scale, you see the price there changes from, it was £23.55 all the way up to 132. So dynamic calculation in terms of where you are on your map. We'll head back to the larger scale of 23.55. So if I'm happy with that, I can start customizing. And this is a great place for you to add all those key details about your print. So we can give it a header, just go my map, like so, pop it at the top, make that a bit bigger, and give it a footer if I want to, pop it down there, give it a legend, we put it on the top right, also make that a bit bigger. You can also edit those legend items if I want to. And again, that little eye icon, I can just switch off that area one at the top if I wanted to. I'll just take away the codes for each one. Once I'm happy with that, I can save the changes. And then lastly, with the logo, if you do want to add your logo to these prints, you can do so. It's just a drag and drop from your computer. You can pop that anywhere on the map. You can't delete the Land app logo in a free account, but you can do that in the paid subscriptions. And then once we're happy with all of that, we can either click preview if we want to see a preview version of this. That will provide what basically you see on your screen there, a watermarked version of the print. Or I can go right ahead, click buy now. Be done with that. So please. So this is my free demo account, so I can't actually buy anything at the minute, but self-explanatory in terms of what you'll be taken to next. Going back to any of those prints and those buttons right at the top here, the top right, once you've kind of created your outputs, like a print or a table, you can view all of those, particularly the prints from this drop down at the top here. So clicking on that, it will take me to this page here. If I have bought lots of prints or created lots of free prints, they'll be listed here for me. And then heading back, other aspects here, which I probably won't need to cover. It's not like a core function, the Land app. And then lastly, this collaboration button here. If I am wanting to share this map with maybe an advisor that I've got or another team member, great value of Land app is that I can collaborate with others quite easily from this collaboration function. So if Rosie, if I wanted to share this with Rosie, go to rosie@landapp.com. Choose the permission type. So in a free account, you can do that at read only. In a paid subscription, you can do that as editor level. Then just click add viewer, and Rosie will then be able to view that map alongside me. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there as we have 10 minutes left, and just head back to this slide, which I'll share. And then Rosie, do you want to hand us over for the Q&A?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So there's so many questions that have come in. Thank you so much for all your participation. I think we'll have to kind of wrap through them as quickly as possible just to try and cover as many as we can. But I don't know if we'll get to the most recent ones, so we can try and follow up next week. But the first one that came in was from an anonymous, and then Andrew said that this would be useful. So is there any way of making the maps and features suitable for colorblind people? So I'm happy to answer this, Will, to give you a bit of a break. But yeah, we really want to make Land as accessible to everyone as possible, and are very conscious of colour blindness and have factored that into some of our templates and data layers. But we're always keen to get feedback. So if there's some colours that aren't working on a data download or a data layer, please let us know, and then we can work with the product team to make it more accessible. So yeah, please get in touch, and you can contact us, I guess, either by scanning this QR code or the email address sales@thelandapp.com is a good one to get in touch with us. So then the next question from Anonymous. We are interested in doing two things: importing layers from the Environment Agency if we can, showing detailed hydrology, and doing tree surveys and importing that data. Is there a preferred method for doing both of these? It might be covered elsewhere. Um, so Will, do you want me to answer this one as well?
Around corporate ownership?
No, so this is importing data layers from the Environment Agency.
Sure. Yeah, I was jumping ahead. But go ahead and I can take over any further ones.
Yeah,
Too.
so we may well already have the data you're looking for as a data layer. So worth kind of looking in our data layer list on the right-hand side. But if not, you can import data if you found it elsewhere. For example, with the Environment Agency, you can unzip that file and import it into LandApp, and then you should have that data there for you. There's 5 different file formats that LandApp will accept.
Great.
And then, oh yeah, in terms of the tree survey element, I would recommend using LandApp Mobile for that. So we on the standard subscription, you can use LandApp Mobile where you can go out in the field and kind of plot different points and then do your kind of tree analysis on there. So yeah, I'd recommend that out in the field. Um, yeah, Will, do you want to take the next one, which is does LandApp help identify title deeds and owners' details?
Sure. And just to say, everyone, thanks so much for so many questions. We'll try our best to rattle through. On land registry, corporate ownership, yes, in a standard or professional subscription, you can view corporate ownership details of any HM land registry titles. And then beyond that, in the professional subscription, you can purchase land registry titles directly from the land registry too. Again, that's same integrations which I covered in the demo. The price will be the same as what you purchase in Land Registry's portal in Land App 2. So thanks, Rolly. From Gareth Begins, you have a number of built-in templates when starting new projects. Please could you advise if it's possible to build bespoke templates for an organization? So the answer is yes, we do now have the ability to build your own templates, but it's not yet in the product. So you can't do that from your Land App account, although we can on our side at the minute create those for you. So Gareth, if you do want that, please do get in touch with us after this call and we can perhaps set up another call to talk about what that template might be and getting that into Land App. And that goes for anyone else in the audience that are interested in bespoke templates. Uh,
I'm happy to take the
yeah,
next one.
go ahead.
Might need a bit of a demo for this one, Will, and potentially the standard subscription. So from Kate Solomon, I want to map the layout for planting trees. I created a map using my SBI number. Um, and then so basically Kate wants to space trees in rows with 10 meters apart. Um, yeah. So they want a field by field map, but that doesn't seem to be able to break this down. So I think what you want to do, so we do have an agroforestry designer, but I think it might not necessarily be what you're looking for. I mean, you can if you select the linear design, Will, and actually you need to copy a feature, don't you, to
Yeah, perhaps it's not the
transfer.
right moment to demo it. However, Kate, we do have a couple of short walkthrough videos on that agroforestry design tools that are right at the bottom there. But also, if you do want to create your own designs in Land App, I recommend using these different drawing tools like lines, giving it a buffer as well, which I don't think I did show in the demo
I think
using that
Will
buffer.
the grid at the bottom, which is on
Yeah,
the subscription,
there's
would be really useful for you, Kate. Which, yeah, I can send you some more information on that afterwards. And then you can select 10 meters
there's
between
the grid
each
too.
trees.
Um, Great for just dropping points on where you want your trees to be. But again, if you want to get in touch with us, Kate, we can show that in a one-to-one demo with you, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still many more questions flying in. So, is there any way to know when the satellite imagery was taken? So I believe, Will, the satellite imagery is 2022 to 2023, but it can take a couple of years to actually have, for this data to be captured because it involves planes flying over and taking images. So, depending on where you are located in the UK, will depend on how up to date it is. But yeah, I think it's around 2022 to 2023. and we're looking to get a higher resolution base map as well, which may well be newer. Um, then Andrea, so I did send you, Andrea was asking about T marks adding onto a map. I did send some help guidance in the chat. So hopefully you've worked out how to do that, but you just access it from the draw drop down. Um, Will, can you answer this one? So from Mike Tristram, does the countryside stewardship higher tier map import option work equally for countryside stewardship mid tier? So
Yeah, so you'll
nice
have
layers.
you'll have those, well, they're kind of very similar options all in one template. It's that countryside stewardship template. What I think in terms of an import, what might might mean is that the import through the RPA pre-populating the countryside stewardship template, that doesn't work. It's strictly that BPS template where you get that pre-population in terms of your different land covers and what that code is. So PGO1 for permanent grassland, that just works for the BPS template.
Yeah, and then Mike's asked a few questions actually. So just one of his other ones, does the land registry template import option give plans which are LRO? Is that land registry something compliant for land transfer registration purposes? So this is, I think, submitting an RLE1 form, isn't it, Will?
Yeah, I believe so. Or in relation to, I think, Mike, maybe it's better, and this goes for all other questions that we're not going to get through. We will be following up to each one with you directly because we've got your email address through registering for this session. So perhaps we cover those two for Mike in a follow-up. And then Keith Freeguard, we have time for one more. Keith wants to create a map of 15 individual walking and cycling routes in and around a small town in the Cotswolds, would then be able to display, export and or print individual or smaller groups of those routes separate from the full network of all routes. Does this need to be separate maps or features per route? What is best? You could, there's a couple of ways. You could do it either way, essentially, Keith. You could have one large map of all the routes as separate features and print them all off. Or if you wanted to have each route as a separate plan in your map, which in my head I think would be probably a better option, just so you can flick on and off each different route if they are quite separate and individual and you want to treat them at any point in isolation, whether that be printing or creating a report from it. So I'd probably go in the different plan layers for that. And then the different routes themselves, how you get those in. We didn't cover you can actually import other GIS files into LandApp 2 as well as import them from the RPA and the land registry. So if you do have those to hand somewhere, you can import those in quite easily.
Then the next question is about importing data, so GPS track routes. So yes, you can import data onto LandApp. There's 5 different file formats, and so providing it's in one of those file formats, you can import that data. Somebody else, I've just created a folder and put some layers in it. How do I open the folder again? So your folder will be on your plans on your left-hand side, and you know it's a folder because it hasn't got any lines in it. The plans with the name will have like little lines in it, and what you want to do is click on the folder which has no lines in it. Click on it and it will open and show your plans within it. Hopefully that helps. And then we've probably got time for one more, I would say, Will. Um, are there limits to how many photos you can upload? Will, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, there is a limit of 10, I believe, at the time. So you can only bulk load in 10 photos at one point. Um, we might have a time for a couple more if people are happy staying a minute or so. We've covered the folders. Is there, from Christian, is there a process to combine multiple plans into one plan? Yes, there is. I wonder if I quickly jump in to land up again. So again, going to these three dots next to the plan name, you'll see probably two, actually stick with the select all. So you'll just need to select everything in that plan and then click copy to plan, and say if you create a new one that is kind of all plans or master template or something, you can just call it that, choose whichever template you need, and that will copy it and make it to a new one. And then from there, with all the other plans that you want to combine into one, it's just a case of select all, copy to plan at the top there. Um, but perhaps I think we'll pause there and follow up with all the other questions. But wrap up there. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining the call and your time. It's really, um, yeah, a pleasure to do these webinars, and it's kind of one of the main ways that we engage with our users. So thanks very much for your engagement and all the questions. We will follow up with those. And then we're going to have regular, as usual, have regular webinars delivered by our team. So please do watch out for an email for the next one. We'll leave it there. Thank you as well, Rosie.
Thanks
Um,
all.